I'm really excited about our next guest. He is the keyboardist of this amazing band. They're going to be exploding all over the place. They're called Robot Nature, and our guest is Richard Parizer. And, well, first of all, before we invite him in and uh, get his story, I just want to provide some context. I was on Facebook scrolling. I love checking out awesome bands, and I saw this video and I heard violin and it sounded amazing. And I basically saw this band with this violinist just playing this amazing tune, and I was entranced and I was like, this is amazing. I immediately shared it with my bandmate Abe Perez of our band Glasspirits, and I was like, and he was like, yeah, they kick ass. And so I found them on social media. I added all the members right away. And whenever our band had something like a video or any other kind of content, I'd share it. And Richard, who I have with me here, he's commented back, took the time to do that, and said some very specific, nice things about our band. And I was just like, man, these guys are so nice too. And now that we have, Abe and I have this podcast, I'm like, okay, he's got to be like one of the first people I have to invite because he's just so nice and friendly. And here he is, Richard Parizer. Hi, Richard.
Hey, Joanna. Well, first and foremost, thank you so much for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate it. Appreciate you thinking of me, thinking of us. And thank you again for, being a fan and, and likewise from fan to fan as well of your, and it's amazing to see and hear people like yourself that you really don't even know. And then all of a sudden you get to know them because they appreciate what you're doing musically, which is, I think, why, so many of us are on this journey. Because it's like, not only, I don't know about you, but for me, I have to do this. I have to do music. It's very much been instilled in my bloodline since I was very, very young. But at the end of the day, it's so rewarding to see and hear from people like yourself, that just tuned in and out of nowhere, that's some of the most, I think, the reason why we do this, right, Joanna?
Yeah, for sure. And and it's not just in terms of like, oh, let's just be nice to everyone because you don't want to burn bridges or opportunities. And it's just like, the older I get, I just love the idea of community, and then just like musical friends getting together and supporting each other, and just going
Absolutely.
to each other's shows or playing shows together. I mean, that's, how I feel. Not everything needs to be this cutthroat competition that people try to make things out to be like in the media with other bands. But I also love that you play keyboards, and because I also play keyboards in my band. Oh, there we go. And because when I see other rock bands live and they have a keyboardist, and it's like, man, turn the keyboards up. It's like it's like the sound engineers like a guitarist or drummer or something. So there might be bias there. And
Yeah.
yeah, I just, you have such an amazing story. The theme of this podcast season is called Voyager, because I'm finding from doing research, a lot of our guests are, immigrants, or however you want to call
Transplant.
it. Or transplants too. And so, yeah, please, if you don't mind, tell us your story and, how you started back in Maryland.
Sure. Yeah. Well, you just named it. I was born and raised in Maryland, and as I mentioned just a moment ago, music really was a part of my bloodline in a way. Not only bloodline, but my mom played, but she played in a different way. She didn't play professionally or anything. She just kind of took lessons growing up, and she would go on the piano every now and then and show me what it was like to actually be experimentative, to be creative. But
Mm.
but basically, my mother noticed me go on this play school piano that she got my brother, my older brother, that is, when I was about 2 years old. That I would be very experimental. I would be pushing one key at a time. She described to
Mm.
me. She noticed that and immediately took me into a program, a Suzuki program, if you're familiar with it. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how it all started. It was about 3 years old, and in that Suzuki program, there was just rhythmic exercises and just subtleties on a keyboard or things like that. Of course, I really don't remember that part of it, but it wasn't until about 6.5, 7 years old I actually started taking private lessons, and that's when things started to change. And I had an interesting sort of, I think, introduction to lessons. I actually said private lessons, but let me correct myself. It was actually a group class. The very first experience I had with piano or keyboarding was a group class that my mom brought me to. But then I started taking private lessons when I was right about 8 years old, or 7.5 or so. And that's when things did start to change for me even better or even greater, because I had an amazing, and I'll call him a mentor, but private piano teacher that just really embraced all musical aspects. It wasn't one of those kind of teachers that was, slap the wrist, we're playing classical music. It was all of the above. He really channeled the student and what that student, or what he saw in that student. And he also noticed one other big thing, which I don't know that, I thought everyone did it at the time, but apparently I was wrong. He noticed that I wouldn't stay on the page. I'd go off the page, meaning like I had to be creative with the song. For some reason, I felt like I could do things that weren't necessarily notationally there. You know what I mean? And I didn't realize what I was doing, but I was embracing the science of music. And I saw one of your questions later on. I think it mentioned about music theory. We'll get to that later. But anyways, so music started for me at that age, and I just fell in love. You see the saxophone in the background. That was a big part of my past too. My parents had to ask me to stop practicing. They really did. I mean, because they were watching a show and they were like, "Rich, you just were playing, a half hour before this." And I was like, "Well, I want to go do this thing I just thought."
Oh, that's awesome.
But it was great. No, they were so encouraging though. My parents are, certainly role models, and they always encouraged me to do the things I love. And that's, but then I started to get more serious about it, I would say, actually come the end of high school. And that is that we have I was pretty lucky. My high school was pretty musically involved and inclined in the state. We had definitely one of the better music programs. And it is partly due to the fact that we had this incredible show that we put on called Rock and Roll Revival. It was Rock and Roll Revival, meaning we kind of revived old rock tunes, you know what I mean? From dating back to the 60s or even the 50s, and then 70s and 80s. And at that point, we were kind of in the 90s or later 90s. So it was
nice.
It wasn't so much 90s, but definitely things from the 80s, 70s, and 60s. We were reviving old sort of tunes and whatnot. But part of that, so now going back to what I was saying, the students kind of had the power. As a keyboardist, it was one of our jobs to put the charts in front of the rest of the musicians, because keyboardists they had that theory background typically, and sometimes guitarists, sometimes drummers too. But it was our job to put together the charts for the band. Now, for the band to play, you know what I mean? And that included chord charts for that.
Oh, wow.
What I'm kind of referring to.
So you were arranging right away.
So I didn't realize I was arranging, the truth be told. And I put it together because, you kind of had to do those things with your ear. So that taught me to play with a band. That taught me to arrange, like you said, and the importance of the arrangement, or the importance of how to arrange, and what that is sort of scientifically, musically. And after that show, I started to get the music feeling of like, maybe I should do this professionally. But I still didn't actually try to forego music professionally at that point. I went to school right into the engineering program, studying undefined engineering at that point, or undecided engineering at that point. And eventually I would, because 9/11 was from my freshman year of college. Whoops, I just dropped my age, I guess.
It's all good.
But my freshman year at college was 9/11, and that was a big deal, of course, especially on the East Coast, I think all around the nation, really. And because of that, I went into fire protection engineering, which was very interesting at the time. But it was 2 years into college that I realized, wait, I'm in the wrong spot. I love music. This is what I want to do. So that's where it was come sophomore year of college that I realized I switched over to music, or really entertainment management, because it was almost too late to join a technical music program at that point, unless I wanted to go to school for another 5 years or so. And I kind of didn't. I wanted my degree and get out. And I kind of had this vision. I wanted to come to LA. I drove out to LA literally right after college, about 1 year after college. I was teaching piano, so I saved up a bit, and I drove out to LA with my cousin. Actually, he joined me, thankfully. And we did it. When I say drive out, I mean we got in my Hyundai Accent at the time. Barely got up the road when we were in Colorado. I don't know if you've ever driven in Colorado, but I had my keyboard in the back and suitcases and my whole life with me at that point. And we were like, full throttle, going up those Colorado hills at 35 miles an hour, and trucks were passing me at that point. I'll always remember that part of the journey. But you talk about voyaging, and that was actually a voyage, for me. I literally spent 3 days, or 2 nights, 3 days traveling across the country with that music bone, and knowing I was gonna end up in LA.
You just mentioned, being in school and theory a little bit, and I'll just provide like a little background on myself, because I did go to a music conservatory for college. It wasn't a conservatory at the time, it later became one, for violin performance, and it was kind of geared to like eventually get you to audition for an orchestra. And 1 year into it, I was like, man, there's all these methods and theory classes. I just had this other side of me that was into music programming, like synth programming and composition, and that I found more fulfilling at that time. And then, and I was at this school, and I was like, man, I just don't see the application right now. And I was, like 18, and I was very impatient. This doesn't apply to me, whatever. I dropped out, and then like I regretted it, and then my family was like, why'd you drop out of college? And then I re-enrolled, and then I was like, okay, yeah, I need to like listen to myself, and I dropped out again. But then I enrolled into like a different program that was like religious studies. It's 1 year, so I can just get that degree and no one will yell at me or whatever. But I know at that time I just had this fire that I was like not putting my energy in the right place. But now I'm in my 30s, I'm older, and I look back and I was like, yes, time is very important, especially in the entertainment industry. Like, youth is considered to be a commodity. It was just like, man, if I just took that 1 year to like bunker down, learn some theory, then it would have been just like a tool today. So now that you have been teaching piano, what are your thoughts or messages to students who are so eager, who want to disregard theory or just anything? What are your thoughts?
Sure. And just to relate real fast, I can relate to the dropout story, because at that point I mentioned when I was switching, I actually wanted to drop. I told my parents I want to drop and I want to go out to LA. That's what I want to do. I know I want to do music, but they encouraged me. They said, why don't you, it's a full ride. You're not spending money, just do it. And finish it, because you probably won't regret it. And I was only a couple of years away at that point, as is. But I can relate to the feeling of like, where do I go? Should I drop? I wanted to. I really did.